Welcome back to the show, The Unbroken. I am your host, Sam Davis. As always, good to be here. Today, we're going to get into answering some questions sent in by the audience, and I've got a guest. We're just going to jump right into it. Her name's Ann Jones. We're going to get into that about her story and what qualifies her to be able to answer some of these questions sent in by family members who are struggling with addicted loved ones, and they just don't know what to do. This episode is brought to you by Intervention on Call. It is your go-to resource. I am the founder and owner of that. For family members who have loved ones and they're just worn out trying to manage and fix and control their loved one's addiction and they're losing themselves in the process, we offer free family support groups 5 nights a week, totally free, run by professionals, solution-based, interactive. We want to educate you because we know the more that you are educated around what exactly is going on, the easier the answers are going to come to you, the more easily you're going to be able to set boundaries and to take the appropriate action. So that's our number one goal, is to educate as many families out here as we possibly can. You want some individual time with myself or any of the other providers on Intervention on Call, you can book an hour appointment with us on demand, virtually. You can be on camera, be on phone. You can bring in some of your other family members that are concerned about your addicted loved one. What we want to do is we want to build a team and give you strategy, plans, and a design to get you out of the chaos and into clarity. So, without further ado, Ann Jones, how are you, dear?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So you came from Fredericksburg, Virginia,
I did,
right?
yes. I'm from Fredericksburg.
Born and raised?
Well, no. I've always considered it home base. I was born actually in Washington, D.C., but as long as I've been alive, we've had a house there. I grew up largely overseas because of my dad's job, moving every 3 years or so. But in between countries, we would live in Fredericksburg.
What was your favorite place you lived?
Oh, I get asked that a lot. It's a tie between Portugal and Israel.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So those two countries. But most of my childhood was in Portugal. So from 8 to 12 was Portugal.
So was that difficult to be in a country that you didn't know the culture or speak the language? Did you feel like an outsider as a little kid?
Yes, very much. And I do believe that is plays into my addiction recovery story. Having to move so frequently every 3 years or so, being the new kid in school, having to learn a new language, adopt to a new culture, make friends, all of that, just forces you to be on. So, and kind of performative in a way. And then that, like you said, that need to belong, was always changing. So,
but Northern Virginia, D.C., Fredericksburg is where you, when you were in the States, that's where you were.
Fredericksburg,
and that's a completely different part of Virginia than the Virginia that I'm from. We've got two different Virginias, and I'm not talking about West Virginia, Virginia. I'm talking about Northern Virginia.
Blackstone, right?
Yeah.
Near Farmville.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that because I went to Sweetbriar College, which is near Hampton, Sydney, which is where we would go sometimes on weekends, and that's in Farmville. So I'm familiar with going there on weekends.
Right. Totally different Virginia, isn't it?
Totally different.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about Virginia, though. There's like such, we've got mountains, we've got beaches. It's like, and it's all these different cultures. And the closer you get to D.C., it certainly changes, as you know. And
I like to stay out of that.
I know.
area.
I like to be a little more. Fredericksburg's getting a little too big for my taste, to be honest. But.
It is. So what did Ann want to be when Ann was little?
Oh,
I know it wasn't an alcoholic.
No, I didn't see that for my future, even though I do come from a long line of alcoholics on both sides of my family. But I believe I wanted to be a writer and a professor. And I did end up becoming an English major and a creative writing minor. And so I pursued that for a little while, but I didn't obviously end up there.
So you had that creative spirit, right? Like to write stories.
I love to write.
Right.
Yeah, I love to write still.
Right. What happened?
I graduated and I moved to New Orleans.
And you weren't drinking at this time?
I was not drinking heavily in college or in high school. I went to an all-girls boarding school in Tappahannock.
I know exactly where you're talking about.
St. Margaret's, which is closing. It's either closed or it's closing.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It's very
it's been
sad.
Around a long
I just
time.
heard that. I know.
Big white building.
Yes,
on the river
beautiful
bank.
on the river. Yeah.
Yep.
Very, very nice. My parents didn't want me to keep being uprooted. I believe they were living in the Dominican Republic when I decided to go to boarding school. So I chose to go there because it's close to Fredericksburg. And there was no alcohol available. It was all girls, pretty strict environment, pretty structured, starting with like room inspection. And then your day is just very structured: breakfast, class, study halls, take a sport. And then I went to an all-girls college, went to Sweetbriar, which is interesting that I chose to go to a single-sex school after that experience because, honestly, it wasn't great going to an all-girls boarding school. I felt like a caged animal. Kind of, but we got to smoke cigarettes behind the Dairy Queen, downtown. So there was that.
So you were rebelling a little bit.
Oh, yeah. And I always had that in me. I always had a little bit of a rebellious streak or questioning authority. Never really loved to be told what to do. Like a lot of us have that trait.
I still have that.
Yeah. Sometimes, I'm pretty well in line now, but I still question. When someone asks me to do something, I'm like, okay, let me think through what the agenda is here, what's the motive behind it. But I like my life to be settled and free of chaos these days. So, I'm pretty much conformed to.
Do you feel like you had alcoholism long before you picked up the first drink?
I do. I remember distinctly going shopping with my mom when I was like 10 or 11. And she bought me a couple items of clothing. And then I just remember being like, I want more. Like, we're not done here. And she's like, this is good enough. She's like, and then I remember her turning to me and being like, it's never enough with you. And it stuck with me, because that theme would play out later in life.
Right. When did it turn south?
I would say that when my mom was diagnosed with cancer and ultimately passed away in 2009, I started drinking very heavily and was, self-medicating with that. I always like to push the limits with alcohol and cocaine. I ended up moving to D.C. where I was introduced to cocaine. I was definitely one of those people that pushed the limit, but kept it pretty much in check. But I would say after living in D.C. for 10 years, I decided, and then losing my mom, my husband and I decided to separate. We were only married for 3 years, together for 5. We actually ended up having a pretty amicable separation. And I never really wanted to get married. It was one of those things that I just felt like I needed to check that box.
Everybody else is doing it.
Right.
That's what I did.
I know. And I was like
Looked
a senior
cool.
citizen in the Southern Belle world by the time I decided to get married.
How old were you?
I think I was 33,
right.
32. And I was not emotionally mature enough at that time to be married or to be anyone's partner, you know?
I remember. I'm sorry to jump in. I remember coming back from my honeymoon. It was in the van and coming back from the honeymoon, just looking over going, holy shit, what have I done here? Holy smokes. My cousins had gotten married. People I was running with had gotten married. Looked like they were having a good time. I was like, shit, I want one of those, you know?
Yeah, they look pretty happy. Well, I'll do what they're doing, you know?
Right.
But then I got in there and I was like, wait, this doesn't feel right. But I wasn't emotionally mature to do that at that time. And then my mom and I were very, very close. You know, we would talk a couple times a day, every day. And when she ended up passing away, which took us all by surprise because cancer doesn't really run in the family. So it was, it was such a shock to the system. And I remember right after she passed, just being kind of numb for a year. And people kept checking in with me and being like, are you okay? And the only thing that I knew to do, because I didn't grow up with good coping skills as far as like emotional regulation, all I knew is that when I drank alcohol, I felt normal. If I was like, okay, this is what normal people feel like. A sense of well-being, some focus with the right amount, like maybe 3 drinks could provide a little bit of focus, and then relaxed enough to just be more authentic and not feel that need to perform. Right. That has since subsided in recovery and with sobriety and with time, but it's taken years to undo that programming, really.
Yeah.
You and I talked earlier before we started the podcast about why do alcoholics, addicts feel like victims so often. I remember distinctly at that time in my life looking at my dad dating someone else as betrayal of me. I have 2 brothers, me and my brothers, and our mom who had passed, and not really seeing the bigger picture, which is that he deserves companionship. I want him to be happy, obviously. And I want him to move on with his life. But I was so self-centered and so broken at that point and getting worse when I decided to move out, that I just, wallowed in that for a while, moved out, and that's when, like, I was off to the races.
Katie barred the door, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Were you ever smoking cocaine?
I never did. I was never in a position for it to be offered to me. But,
Thank God.
I know.
You weren't in a position where crack cocaine made an appearance.
Right.
Like you got to be in a little rough spot for that to make an appearance.
And thank God, because I've read descriptions about people who had a problem with crack, and I know I would have loved it because, stimulants were definitely a problem for me.
Oh, it was, my life took nosedive the minute I took that hit. Yeah. So, yeah. I used to run around here. I used to sell stolen cigarettes to the store right down the street. I really don't even remember how I got stolen cigarettes, but I used to sell them at that store right down the street.
Oh, okay.
I used to get methadone right up the corner here and buy crack cocaine up the hill. Yeah, it's a pretty rough spot. Pretty rough spot. Did a lot of running around in here. It's really nice to be able to come into the city now.
I bet.
In total freedom and just come here and sit in the studio, see this wonderful engineer and producer, Tom, and, be around decent people.
Absolutely.
When did it get bad, and what did bad look like? And bad enough to where you did something about it?
So I was running out of money, running out of options, and also just in a horrible psychological state with depression, anxiety, and looking at everything as the problem except for myself. I didn't even know how to do that yet. I had zero gratitude. I was completely in survival mode, and I just remember being filled with a sense of impending doom at all times. And my best friend, who lives in Louisiana, said, I think you need to get out of Fredericksburg. I think Fredericksburg's the problem. The boyfriend who you live with who's drinking, you need a change of scenery. So come to my house for Thanksgiving and just stay for a couple of weeks. So I ended up leaving town, driving through, 24 hours to Louisiana with a girlfriend, got down there for Thanksgiving, and ended up staying for several months with her and her family. At one point, she gave me the keys to her apartment in downtown Mid-City, New Orleans, and that was kind of a disaster because, I was out of money, and I had a house that had some alcohol in it, but I just had no purpose, no structure, no people. And I remember reaching out to God at that time and just being like, this is the most broken that I could be. So just what it looked like, I was massively underweight at that time, and started to have some suicidal ideations, racked with anxiety, so afraid of what the future held. And I do remember calling the AA hotline, but not being able to connect with anybody and thinking, this is just obviously not meant to be. This is not meant to be. For whatever reason, I got talked into coming back to Fredericksburg and facing the music and not running from whatever I had left behind. Financial wreckage, relationships. My family was confused and exasperated by me at that time because my dad couldn't figure out what was going on, I don't think. I mean, he knew I was acting strange, but I wasn't opening up. So he thought I was just depressed. So he was just kind of throwing money at me, get some help. Go talk to a therapist, go do what you have to do.
And he had no understanding with alcoholism.
He didn't. And I think he was somewhat surprised to find out that when I finally admitted that I was an alcoholic addict, at the end of the day, he was like, okay, that makes sense. My mom was in recovery. She was, when she passed away, she had 37 years of sobriety, so I never knew her drinking. But obviously, it runs in our family. And then I have two brothers who are also in recovery. So,
you think that's intergenerational trauma?
I've thought about that. I think so, because my mother's father had a severe alcohol issue, I think, until much later in life. I think maybe in his 80s he stopped drinking.
Where do you think that came from? If you look back through the family history, was he exposed to some trauma? Was he in World War II?
He was in World War II.
What happened?
Yeah, I think World War II. And I think that, my mom's generation, there was a lot of repression going on. I think people didn't talk about feelings. They were not encouraged to be self-aware the way we are today and to share with each other. And there was just this a lot of energy put into making things look okay and fulfilling certain roles. And that obviously takes a toll.
Belief systems get passed down.
Yes, definitely.
Mistaken belief systems. So you got some of that. You know,
I did.
honest.
I did.
Got it honest.
Yeah,
right?
got honest.
What did it look like when what did that day? Did you have to detox? What did the day look like?
So I didn't, I think I had too much pride to medically detox, to be honest. I ended up coming back to Fredericksburg to face the music, but I was very, very broken, Sam. Like, I gave you a visual, I had like red face. I was, shaking, all of that. I got back hoping that things would feel different in the house with the boyfriend that that I had left for a bit. And it was okay, I think, for like a day or two. He was glad to have me back. And then I just remember the same feeling of darkness and impending doom. And like, nothing changes if nothing changes. Like, I didn't know that phrase at that time. So I checked myself into this crisis stabilization thinking I needed to get some tools, some maybe anxiety management under control. And there were people in there with me that were recovering addicts, alcoholics, and they would share in group. And then it would come to my turn to share. And I was like, well, I don't really think I have a problem. I just have anxiety and I need something to like regulate emotions and take the edge off. And somebody had to like point it out to me like, that, my friend, is an alcoholic, okay? Like, you're a daily drinker using drugs and alcohol to manage your emotions. And
They
I
were
was
telling you some truth.
telling me some truths. And it was like, even then I was still a little like on the fence, not fully convinced. But I knew I had to re-engage with the world because my world had gotten so narrow, as it does in late stages of addiction. I had kind of iced some people out. I didn't feel a part of. A lot of that self-imposed anxiety was fueling my isolation. So I made a plan for myself to leave that treatment facility and go to meetings. And I decided to go to AA because I could walk to it. I live downtown, and I went to this meeting called the Early Birds. It's at 7:30 a.m. Took a service position pretty much right away and made that part of my structure. And I would go there every single morning and then usually go to a meeting at night. Quickly got a sponsor, got in her back pocket. I remember she was one of the first people to tell me, like, the world is not all about you. Like, she would hear me whine about my dad's new wife or his relationship and how, woe is me. And she's like, this is not all about you. And I remember being so offended that it wasn't all about me, but it wasn't.
It's pretty rare that an individual comes out of crisis stabilization and makes a decision on their own to go to meetings, and much less an early morning meeting.
I know.
Right? They
Right.
get up at 7:30 and go do this thing and get a service position and get a sponsor.
Yeah.
Hats off to you for
Yeah,
that. Like, seriously,
thank
I
you.
was not disciplined enough to do that. And a lot of people aren't. They aren't disciplined enough to be able to unless they've really had their ass kicked.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
totally had your and
I
you
had my ass
evidently
kicked.
totally had your ass
And
kicked.
I had the gift of desperation that they
Right.
talked about. And I
that you weren't
arrived.
robbed of. Family didn't jump in there and rob you of that
Right.
desperation. You bore the full brunt of your actions and the consequences thereof,
100%.
which puts you in a state of willingness.
Right.
The desperation drove the willingness for you to want to do something different, and by God, you did it.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
did it.
First time walking into an AA meeting is kind of that's a weird feeling.
Oh,
man.
it
It's
is,
like, holy
and-
shit, is this where my life is now?
Oh, it was. And I thought that the rest of my life was going to be confined to a church basement,
Yeah.
shaking with a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
I would never have fun again. And I
just
remember.
for today.
Yeah, just for today. And
And
I
you're
never
like,
even
"What?"
knew what that meant. I still struggle with, like, it's only 24 hours. I'm like, okay. But I remember a bunch of women walking up to me, giving me their numbers, and feeling like that was so abrasive at that time. Like, that was just so much. And I'm like, these people don't know me. Why do they care if I quit drinking or not? Like, what's in it for them? I was still of the mindset that everybody had an agenda. Like, I'd also lived in D.C. for 10 years, which is a big agenda city.
Yeah.
Usually if somebody asks you to lunch, it's because you know someone that they want to know. There's something behind it. So I was still kind of carrying some of that, but it was just beyond me that somebody would want to help someone that was sick and suffering. Like, what's in it for them? And, later I would become a peer specialist and just see how much joy that really brings to be able to share, your experience, strength, and hope and help another individual. But
Did Did you ever feel unsafe in 12-step rooms as a female?
That's
You
a
hear
good
that a lot.
question. Yeah, I definitely like have had the 13th step action happen, and that's been like creepy and inappropriate. Few and far between, but it's definitely happened. Unsafe, not really, but definitely there's
The
some
women
of that
stick
going
with the
on.
women.
Yeah, and
Find your tribe and stick with them.
that's the main thing. And now I do have good male friends in recovery, and like I mentioned, I have a brother that lives in Fredericksburg. He's in recovery with me, so he's a big support system too. He was definitely in my life throughout this process, but he didn't really know how to emotionally support me. So.
Based on your story,
Yes.
I feel like you're more than qualified to help me answer some of these
Okay,
questions.
wonderful.
And what's really, really cool is that, with interventional calling, what I do as an interventionist, I'm talking to the families, and they have spent years going in and out of trying to fix this and manage that their happiness is dependent on their addicted loved one. And it's enmeshment, poor boundaries, not understanding what alcoholism is or what addiction is. And so we're coaching families on the power that they do have and the leverage to, stop enabling, to, hold the boundaries. You didn't have any of that.
No.
If I'm reading you correctly. You didn't have any of that.
I did not.
You had the consequences, you had the desperation, which created the willingness, and you took the action.
Right.
Right. So you didn't have any options of others coming in and kicking this can down the road for you. You had your ass kicked pretty quick.
I did. I also wouldn't have learned a lot of the lessons had the hardship not been there. And all of that is so valuable. Like, I really had to lose money to be appreciative of it today and to save it and to value it and really want to build wealth, and do that and be focused on that. I had no sense of gratitude prior to getting sober. I mean, maybe gratitude that I'd get out of a scrape here and there,
Like,
real
thank
quick.
God,
Yeah.
that was close. Yeah.
Dodged a bullet. But I never had the overwhelming sense of gratitude that I really do wake up with, even on my worst days. Even when things seem hard or cumbersome, I always have a sense of gratitude. I'm like, well, you know what? I've got a roof over my head. I've got people who love me. I've got a job, place to go.
Yeah.
All
right. So, look, we're going to get into some questions that the audience sends in. And this comes from Emily out of Omaha.
Okay.
We get a lot of people all over the country and abroad. Why do addicts always play victims?
That is such a good question because it is a common theme among addicts. It's easier to cast blame than to take an honest look at yourself. I think being honest with yourself is one of the hardest things that we can do. I still struggle with it today.
Yeah.
I still have to kind of run it by my wise counsel, my
solitary
behavior.
Self-appraisal is usually insufficient.
Right.
100%.
So,
because we'll tell ourselves a story pretty quick.
Yeah.
I was a victim. I mean, I played the victim really well.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was like, I was a victim of sexual assault.
Uh-huh.
I was molested as a kid.
Okay.
So I was a victim of that.
Right.
But I went on to play a victim in every area of my life. And the reason for me doing that is that, and I think for a lot of others, is that it's the only way that I can justify this ridiculous behavior that I'm doing.
Right.
Or this chaotic life that I'm living in, or the unmanageability of my life and all of its consequences, is that I'm sitting around looking at a dumpster fire of a life and bad decisions. And it's the only way I can justify staying in that is it has to have been done to me.
Right.
Not me doing it. Well, if my mom would have done this, or if I hadn't have done that, or if I hadn't been molested, or if my dad would have just said this or shown up this way, and my sister and the wife and the girl, everybody, the judge, like everything, that if they hadn't have done that, then I wouldn't be where I am. And there was no ownership in it for me. And knowing, like, I was creative when I was little. Like, I loved to write stories.
Yeah, me too.
I was very creative. I was not stupid by any means. I was a poor student, but I was not dumb. I knew that there was more for me than the life that I was living. I knew that. So to look in the mirror knowing that I was capable of more, and then to look around me at my situation, was the only way that I could justify it, is I had to be the victim to it.
Right.
And as long as my family allowed me to play that, and they allowed themselves to be the villain in my story,
Mm-hmm.
like I stayed the victim. But when I had to look around and see that I was the common denominator and everything that was going on, and they refused, and I was able to look at that because my family got educated, and my family, they made a decision unanimously that they were no longer going to be the villain in my story.
So did you have an intervention
Yeah,
done on you?
yeah,
Okay.
I've had an intervention.
And that's
yeah,
where your passion was born?
I wouldn't say it was born there, but while I was in treatment, when I finally sobered up, I was like, man, there's so many families out here that had gone through what I'd gone through and what my family had gone through. And I'd been to treatment a bunch, and I'd been to jail, and I just was really aware of the things that my family did trying to help me that were actually, kick the can down the road, and ended up at some treatment centers that were pretty shady, pretty crazy, pretty ineffective, and my family didn't know any better. So I remember being on the airplane with the interventionist head of the treatment, looking at him through bloodshot eyes, going, man, I'd like to do what he does, but not having any clue that I would ever be able to do that. But yeah, it was just what I was supposed to do, was be an interventionist, I think.
Yeah, it sounds
I
like
enjoy
it.
doing it. But
Definitely a calling.
yeah, but as long as families allow their loved ones to play the villain and
Right.
allow themselves to be the villain, to play the victim and allow themselves to be the villain in their loved one's story, not a lot's going to change. Victims don't recover.
Right.
Now I was a victim of sexual assault when I was little, but to stay in that, you're not going to get well.
Right.
I truly believe that victims don't recover. So when it says, why do addicts play the victim? It's the only way they can justify their crazy behavior, is it has to have been done to them and not them doing it, and not of their own making. And as long as you allow yourself to play the villain or to be the villain in their story, they're always going to be the victim, and not much is going to change in the dynamic. I have a lady, she didn't give her name, but she's from Youngstown, Ohio. And she asked, what do I do with all this anger? My addicted son has a daughter almost 12. How could he do this? I am so mad. And what I'm assuming from this is that her son is an addict, obviously. She said that. But he has a daughter that's almost 12, and I'm guessing if he was anything like me, he wasn't very involved in their life.
Right.
Probably leaving grandma to raise it, to raise her. No. What does grandma do with all this anger? Or what does mom do with this anger?
Yeah, that's tough.
What would you say?
I think you need to get support from others and really find somebody that you can open up to, whether it's a pastor, a family friend, someone that you can really talk through your anger with, and work on setting some boundaries with the son, if that's even possible. Prayer is a big part of my life. Prayer and meditation are big in my life, so I would recommend that if this person is open to it. And just self-care, taking care of yourself first and foremost, before being able to take care of others. Not neglecting yourself.
Yeah, I was
Anger's tough, though.
known a lot of people in my life that when they didn't understand something, they combated it.
Yeah.
I think that anger is the bodyguard of fear. And that through underneath that anger, when you cut through it and get down to what's really going on, is that she's very, very afraid.
Right.
And if she's angry, she's going to come out sideways to him, which then probably means the communication isn't all that great. He's going to be defensive, and he's in delusion. He's got a little bit of insanity going on. And I think the main thing, the families can wrap their head around the fact that their otherwise intelligent, gifted, talented loved one is right now they're insane.
Right.
That
they're sick.
They're doing a behavior over and over again, expecting
Yeah.
a different result, and they're expecting their insane loved one to just snap out of it or make some good decisions. And it's that day it happened with you because you reached a desperation point.
Right.
You had a moment of clarity.
Yep. And I remember knowing that my drinking was problematic at different points and talking to somebody about it, but I hadn't really lost enough yet, emotionally, spiritually, to take action. I just wasn't ready. I was miserable, but I wasn't ready.
Right.
And I couldn't see another way. I just thought, okay, everyone I surround myself with drinks heavily. This is normal. This is, this is the way life is. So I couldn't see another way. And it's, as you know, Sam, like so often the addict doesn't think they're hurting anyone but themselves. So they're like, why do you even care to the family members? I'm not doing anything but just living my life.
Yeah, just leave me alone.
Just
Quit
leave
being
me
an
alone.
addict.
Just let me drink and use in peace.
Yeah.
I'm not hurting anyone.
Yeah.
And then, they get clean and sober and then take a look at the wreckage. And that's one of the hardest parts. That's why a lot of people end up going back out in 12-step programs before they do their 4th and 5th step, because taking that inventory is so painful for so many people.
Yeah.
And that a lot of people do relapse.
And they drag their feet on it.
They drag their feet on it. They don't want to do it.
Which if you
I'm
say,
rip
hey,
the Band-Aid off.
They
Let's
do a
do it.
4-step. You get an 8-ball as soon as you finish your 4-step.
Yeah,
And I had that done by tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
Full resentment, sex, fear,
Yeah,
inventory,
all that.
would have been sane, sound, sex. I'd have gone on.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
but it's because they can't wrap their head around something they've never experienced, which is freedom, and they don't know that freedom comes on the tail end of doing a thorough 4th and 5th step.
Right.
If they knew what they were going to get, they do it, but they drag their feet on. Steps 1, 2, and 3, they feel like a lot of people that, just did
it's
steps.
no problem.
The 1, 2, 3 shuffle, But for this mama, she's angry.
Yeah,
She's
understandably.
afraid. And she's afraid because she wouldn't fully understand. And even when you fully understand, you're going to have some fear, and it's still going to show up as anger. But your fear is going to subside somewhat the more educated you get around what exactly is going on.
Right.
Right, when she can fully wrap her head around what the problem is, why he shows up the way he shows up. That he, in fact, I can't speak for him, but as a whole, I've seen that, man, he loves his child. He wants to show up, and he's full of shame and guilt that he can't, and that he's not, and he has no way to process that. Mom has no way to effectively communicate in a healthy way because of all the fear and the anger, because she doesn't understand what addiction is, that it just stays in chaos.
Right.
She's expecting him to put the work in first when he's just incapable.
Right.
Most of the time, that's how it works, right? They're just incapable.
Incapable.
So
right.
she's waiting on her. She doesn't realize it. She's waiting on him to do something, but it has to start with her. And that is, wait a minute, man. Let me hit the timeout button a little bit. Let me first make sure that the 12-year-old is safe. And that, I would say the 12-year-old needs some therapy. Yeah. Because the 12-year-old is going to start taking on all that shame.
Absolutely.
That's not hers to take. She's going to start feeling like...
And confused and maybe abandonment.
Right.
issues.
Like, why am I not lovable enough for my dad to want to be with me? Right? And then next thing you know, at 17, 18 years old, she's engaging in relationships that are just like her dad, trying to fix someone, trying to make someone that's emotionally unavailable available for me. Because by God, if I can do that, then I have power, then I have value.
Right.
Mom doesn't understand any of that right now. She's terrified that this is the way life is always going to be. Yeah. She's probably asking her addicted loved one or addicted son a lot of questions. Like, why aren't you doing this?
Right.
Why would you do that? Why won't you do this? Like, she's asking him questions that he doesn't have the answers to.
No.
So because he doesn't have the answers to those questions, he comes back with a lot of ego and a lot of pride and a lot of delusion, and pulls down in the rabbit hole of debate.
And he probably has anger and defensiveness too.
Because he's terrified.
Absolutely.
Because he wakes up in the morning, I would bet. Look, man, he could be a total SOB, man, that doesn't even love his wife. But I don't think that's the case. Right. I have seen that. I have seen, like, you sober someone up and they're still, like, there's just some bad people out here. Right. Drunk or sober. You can sober them up, they're still bad people. I've seen that on occasion, but it's not the rule.
Right. And I would say most people are good people.
Just
most
good people.
addicts are good people that are sick trying to get well.
We're pretty sensitive.
And typically very sensitive.
Yeah.
That's a big reason why a lot of people use, is just to lower the volume on your sensitivity.
If there was one sentence that I could give that mama to tell her son, and any way to communicate it would be this, is that, look, I know you love your daughter. I know you love your daughter. And I know you're struggling. And I know that you really don't want to show up this way, but this is the way you're showing up. I'm going to protect your daughter. I'm going to offer you a place to go get well. Give you an opportunity to be the father that I know you want to be a productive member of society. And that's what I'm willing to support. And that's the only thing I'm willing to support, because you deserve it. You deserve to be well. You deserve to be free. and I'm gonna provide you a place to go do that. But that's all I'm willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're unwilling to do that at this time, I'm not going to get in the way of that either. I'm not going to rob you of an experience that you may need to have. But I'm going to protect my girl, protect your daughter, protect my granddaughter, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put my focus there, and I'm going to engage in my own recovery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love you. Let me know when you want to get some help. And that's it.
Yeah, that's
really
beautiful.
all they can do.
And then I would suggest she go get some support.
Yeah.
Somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's a group or a person or
absolutely immerse
can't do it
herself
alone.
in the
You just
solution
can't
for
do it
her.
alone.
Yeah, to educate herself and continue to educate herself over and over and over again, because
anger's tricky too, because I remember feeling some anger in early recovery, and sometimes it feels good. It's like an adrenaline rush,
I'm
right?
in control.
Self-righteous indignation, like feeling like I don't know, you've been wronged.
I feel power.
Yeah, I feel power.
And I feel in control.
Yeah.
I can manage that. Mm-hmm. It's all delusion.
It is.
It's all delusion.
It is so rare for me to get angry these days. I mean,
really?
it would take a lot.
Really?
Yeah, it takes a lot. I can honestly say I don't have any resentments in my life today.
Nice.
I know.
Nice.
I know. It took a while to get there, Sam, though. It was not an overnight thing. It was a lot of work, a lot of prayer, making amends, owning my part in things, being really honest about, what happened, what things are like. Even when I wrong somebody today and I don't want to apologize, but I know it's the right thing to do, I do it anyway, and I feel better about it. And I feel like, you know what, that was the mature thing to do. That was the adult thing to do. Bravo.
Good for you.
I know.
Good for you. Hats off. That's solid sobriety right there.
Trying.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you want to be doing?
I want to continue to be successful in my career. I really like the field that I'm in, so I'd like to kind of move forward in that and just continue to build on what I've already established. I love where I live. I love the town that I live in, so I see myself staying in Fredericksburg. My dad is 87. He lives around the corner from me, which is nice. I'm not, he's not going to be here forever, so gotta cherish that time with him.
Absolutely.
But just continue to be successful, help others, do the next right thing, and just stay grateful and humble.
Good. Sounds like a good plan to me.
My plan.
Being there for your dad too.
Yes.
That's not something you see a whole lot anymore. It's like, most people, they have to get on a plane to go see their parents or go to them. That's not us. I mean, my family lives around.
Yeah.
Within a half a mile.
In Blackstone?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, my sister's right up the street. We have family all around. I see a bunch of them in the family cemetery when I'm walking every morning. But we've been around there for generations. But sounds like a good plan, Ann. And I want to thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for having
me. And sharing
me.
your story and getting blindsided by a couple of these questions.
Yeah, no, it was great.
That you didn't have the questions before this. We only answered 2.
Yeah,
but
it's good. It's thought-provoking. It's good.
Thanks for sharing your story. And hope to have you back on here sometime.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Remember, family support, free, 5 nights a week, interventiononcall.com. They sponsor this episode. Thanks again to Ann for coming all the way from Fredericksburg to being here today. And we're out.